it is my pleasure to announce actually two speakers. I start with the first speaker. Our first speaker is His Highness Prince Dr. Turki from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He is the president of KACST, I think it is called, the King Abdulaziz City of Science and Technology. He is the president of this organization, which is a very powerful organization in Saudi Arabia with more than 2,000 researchers and engineers dealing with all sorts of science activities. Prince Dr. Turki is actually an aerospace engineer and scientist, and insofar he has a very broad range of knowledge. He knows all sorts of sciences and in particular also the space activities, and we had yesterday the opportunity to talk to him a little bit, and he surprised me by his statements that he has more or less cooperation with the whole research world. Wherever you go, in which country you go, his organization has already a cooperation with this sister organization. And so there is no better person to find a speaker to talk about innovation and entrepreneurship. Jean-Jacques, not young entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship in general. I think also the older ones are addressed. So I would like to invite you, His Highness Dr. Turki, to give us your lecture and to tell us what we should do in the future to become even better. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be with you here today and to give me this opportunity to talk about innovation ecosystem in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and also to give space as an example. I will just stress what Dr. Roy mentioned, that in his four P's that he mentioned. Certainly, it's an ecosystem. It's not just one thing. It's an ecosystem. For a developing country like Saudi Arabia, you have to establish many of these. But in developed countries like Germany, France, and US, of course, many of these elements already exist. So I'm going to talk about how to change this, any innovation in this. Okay. So I'll talk about just shortly about KACST. It's King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. It is like, it has several functions. It's like a ministry. It has a function of a ministry for science, technology, and innovation. It is also a funding agency like the national research centers in many organizations and research councils like the National Science Foundation in the US. And as well as it's the national labs where most of the national research is done. So it is responsible for policy formulation. It coordinates national activities in science and technology, provides support for scientific research, conduct applied research, develop and strengthen the collaboration both in the region and internationally, and also helps technology transfer, and invest in technology development, sponsor and promote investment in IP, as well as provide advice and innovative solutions. So the long-term vision for science, technology, innovation, we have a policy, a national policy, that was approved by the national, by the government, by the Council of Ministers in 2002, And we have implementation plans. These are 5-year implementation plans. The first plan was concluded last year, and the objective is, at the end of the plan, is to have the infrastructure built for science, technology, and innovation. By year 2019, at the end of it, the hope is that Saudi Arabia will have the leadership in the field of science, technology, innovation in the Middle East, and 2024 to access the ranks of developed Asian countries, and by 2029 is to access the ranks of industrialized countries. So the vision eventually is to build a knowledge-based society, an economy, and a globally competitive national system for innovation. The innovation cycle, I think, has several elements. So we have to have I talk about 4 Ds. There were 4 Ps, now 4 Ds: discover, develop, deliver, and deploy. So I'll talk about each of these elements in our ecosystem. So in the discovery stage, KACST has established joint centers with leading institutions in the world. So we have joint centers with MIT, Stanford, Oxford, Cambridge, Boeing, IBM, and organizations such as NASA, and working with DLR as well. Hopefully we'll conclude this collaboration soon. And we have established centers in green technology, nanomedicine, advanced materials, genomics, in telecom, integrated nanosystems, petrochemicals, decision support, astronautics and aeronautics, complex engineering, clean energy, and microwave sensors. These are examples. We are actually building more joint centers in the future. I think we passed one. I think there is a We also fund research at universities, and here is an example of what was done in the first plan. Most of the universities' funding increased exponentially, and you will see eventually we have reached saturation where more funding is available than the proposals submitted. All of these proposals are sent to the American Association for the Advancement of Science. We have an agreement with them. This is the organization that publishes Science magazine. They evaluate those proposals, and based on that evaluation, we fund the research. So as you can see that we funded, this is just an example of the research in the last plan, and you can see that it has reached saturation where it will roughly around 300, just a little bit less than 400 projects per year, which is interesting looking at the European Horizon program. It funds throughout Europe about 300 projects per year. So it's an interesting number that this is the ultimate number. Of course, the proposals are more than double this number. Normally, the approval is about 40% based on the rigorous evaluation I mentioned. We also provide various information with our publications, databases, conferences. We also sponsor journal publications in collaboration with Springer, as well as with Nature. And in the development stage, we have our research institutes, 6 of these: environmental and life sciences, water and energy, communication, information technology, space and aeronautics, nuclear science, and material science. And these are just examples of some of the projects and the products that have been generated, such as radar systems, robotics, supercomputers. By the way, the supercomputer we developed was jointly with Frankfurt University. And the Saudi Genome Project, clean fuel, solar panels, solar water desalination. We are building the largest plant in the world using solar energy. So the desalination is using solar energy. It's about 60,000 cubic meter per day, enough for more than 200,000 people, and it supplies a city in the northern part of the kingdom. And also part of this is development stage is establishing innovation, technology innovation centers at universities. So we've established 6 of these at King Saud University, King Fahd, KACST, many people probably know that, in Jeddah, as well as Al-Qura University. So we have established all of these on a competitive basis, and we continue to implement 1 or 2 of these centers every year. In the delivery stage, we have established an institute, Innovation and Industrial Development Institute. It has a center, National Center for Industrial Development. It supports intellectual property and help inventors. It helps technology transfer in the industry, and also help the industry in quality enhancement and control. And we have an incubation program which is relevant to this topic of innovation. We have a program called BADR, which is Initiate in Arabic. And the program now has 4 incubators. There are 80 companies, startup companies. The jobs in the companies is about 273. The kingdom has about 24 incubators, and the BADR program also help other incubators at the universities, at various organizations such as Chamber of Commerce. So the idea is to expand this support from BADR program to other incubator programs in the kingdom. We also have a program for mega technology parks. The idea is to have a cluster of these industries established in various parts of the kingdom. And we have now started with a mega technology park in Taif area. And I want to thank Candace, the next speaker. She's been among the group helping us in the implementing this project. And here, these are 3 incubators among the 4, the ICT, Biotech, and the Advanced Material Incubator. And several of those companies graduated, and one example is Anwani, and Candace knows them. This company was sold for about $12 million. And so the second one, like ESME, this company started with maybe $20,000, $30,000, and they sell about more than $2 million, about $3 million a year, and just graduated. So many of these companies started with little capital, and they were able to succeed and grow. So we would like to expand the BADR program and help many of those startup companies. And we have something interesting that we have experienced in collaboration with the Kaufman Foundation, is the Startup Weekend. And it's a very, very nice tool. In this startup weekend, you get a group of people, those who have the ideas, those who have the solutions, who have the expertise, and you put them together in a 54-hour event, and you come up with companies. We had 3 events, for example, had almost 2,500 applicants, 940 ideas were submitted that looked at 200 ideas pitched in the event, and 58 innovative ideas were voted to enter the 54-hour event. So at the end, every event is about from 10 to 15 companies that are selected, and then from these companies, 2 to 3 go to the incubator. This is all done in 54 hours. So it's a very well-structured system by Kaufman Foundation, and our people at Badr are licensed by the Kaufman Foundation to do this program throughout the kingdom. So we are interested in expanding this, and I suggest some of the suggestions to really utilize it. To me, I think it's the quickest way to get things going in a coherent fashion, to have people really start companies where I understand you have a lot of IP in the aerospace field. You need just entrepreneurs and get the people with the ideas and the expertise with those who can take them to the market, working together in a structured fashion. So I suggest this program to be implemented, and you can see the activity. You can see everyone. This is a shot at one of the group working, and it's really just an intensive work that eventually can produce companies quickly. In the deployment stage, we have the Council of Ministers in 2011 established a national company for technology development and investment called Taqniya. It is linked with KACST, and I'm the chairman of the board of the company. It works with KACST very closely. It focuses on 3 areas: services, investments, and industries. We have decided that we're going to focus on 6 areas. In the areas where we think the kingdom can have a leadership in is water, energy, and materials. And things where we think the kingdom need to have self-reliance because there is a huge government spending in this, is in security and defense, information, communication technology, life and health sciences. So I am going to just review some of the key performance indicators for the first 5-year plan, and to see the impact of that plan. And we can look at the research, the publication, comparing, say, on the left side, the solid lines. This is, you see Saudi Arabia, the green, and the plan started around 2007. So the first plan is about 7 years. And you can see the growth was exponential in the publication. And Saudi Arabia surpassed Egypt in the number of publications in ISI. Per capita, if we compare with Turkey and Iran, still Saudi Arabia even higher per capita than Turkey and Iran. So for sure, it has made an impact. The last 7 years, support has made an impact so now we talk about the volume of publication. In the next slide, we see the quality of publication, and this is by nature. And we see Saudi Arabia is number 35 and is ahead of all Islamic and Arab countries. In fact, it's ahead of both Iran, Turkey, and Egypt in the quality of publication. On the right side, we see also Reuters looking at the G20 nations and looking at Saudi Arabia is one of the top countries in terms of the growth of publications and patents as well. So these are not our numbers, these are numbers generated by independent organizations that shows an impact of the first plan for sure. Now the second plan that we have started this year, as I said, eventually by 2020 we will have, the end of 2019, we'll have a leadership in the field of science, technology, innovation in the Middle East. And if we look, our focus has shifted. First plan shows there is a lot of publications and effort, but now we want to focus on industry. We need to do more in the industry, and these are the numbers that show it. So if you look in 1980, and this plot is using an approach by Hidalgo, Professor Hidalgo at MIT, and he shows this called product space. It's a new approach of looking at technology development in countries. And we can see that natural resources or basic industries are in the perimeter, while advanced industries are in the middle. So we see by 1980, there is only a dot there, which is oil. And by 2012, there is some development in the industry, but still not enough. And if we look at contribution of industry or manufacturing in the GDP in Saudi Arabia, we see still flat, is about 11% of GDP. So we have to change, not only funding research for publications, but we have to do something about industry. And therefore, what we are looking at now is a very intensive effort to move forward. So again, Saudi Arabia, see 2012. You're looking at Germany, you will see where most of there is a lot of industry, of course. South Korea has a lot and still, of course, has room to grow. And we see the United States is, of course, the most advanced, where most of the activity is clustered in the middle. So we certainly have a long way to go, but we have a plan to move forward. So the plan is we have a 9 program. The goal is to support the infrastructure, again, for the science, technology, innovation, promote the diversification of national economy by linking research output with companies toward industrial diversification, capacity building and contributing to the training of younger generation, and raise the scientific awareness among the society. And we have 9 programs, basic research still, but only 15% of funding for research will go to basic. And then we have developmental research programs. We have flagship projects program, and we have research and development tools, innovation tools and technology transfer, human resources program, science, technology and society, financial resources, management and governance. So it's an ecosystem that all have to work together to really be able to succeed in this. And there is a partnership between KACST and Taqniya. So if you look at the focused area, I mentioned the 6 areas before. We have already established several companies in Taqniya, and there are already several joint ventures that are being implemented. So we have an advanced materials company, energy company, advanced water company, semiconductor company, defense company, space company, aeronautics company, medical care. We have cloud computing company, cybersecurity, robotics. We have cloud computing, and we have energy engineering and technical service company, and so forth. On the investment side, we have a fund, we call it Riyadh Taqniya Fund. We joined with Riyadh Bank to establish a fund, a venture capital fund. It's about $130 to $140 million. And we have already started, even before this fund is concluded, investing in some companies. Some of them are in the Silicon Valley, like Solar Junction, which has the highest efficiency solar cells in the world, and actually now it is focused on space. It's developing space cells, and I know Lockheed is interested and has visited our company in the Silicon Valley and looking at collaborations. So there will be an intensive collaboration, not just KACST doing funding, but Taqniya is going to work with KACST to develop the industry in the kingdom. Looking at investing, research, and industry, this is the approach. And we have created alliances. Alliance, we say, with major local companies such as Aramco, the oil company, and SABIC, the petrochemical company, with the universities, major universities such as KACST, King Abdullah University for Science and Technology, and also King Fahd University, and with RTI. RTI is Research Triangle Institute in the US. We have created a joint venture or a company that is managing this alliance. Another level is alliance with international companies. And here I start with Lockheed Martin, where KACST and Taqniya Space Company has agreed and signed last month an agreement to manufacture geostationary satellites in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And we have signed also with Antonov a joint venture to manufacture and develop, in fact, advance Antonov 32 and manufacture a new type 132 in Saudi Arabia. We also have a JV with General Electric in the health technology, and with Abingua, the Spanish company, in water desalination using solar energy. These are examples. So we have alliances with major companies in the kingdom, but also with international companies. And then we have partnership with various ministries, like Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Education, Labor, and Ministry of Social Affairs, to create a program that is very similar to the SBIR. It's Small Business Innovation Research in the US, or STTR. They have these two programs that are very similar, one with the universities, one with the industries. And I mentioned 15% goes to basic research funding to universities. 85% now will go only to this program. So a university proposal have to have a company with them. There should be a company associated with this, and there should be a feasibility study and a business plan to really create a product. We will not fund just research for the sake of publication. And therefore, the first stage is a seed grant from KACST. Second stage is a product implementation, the prototype. And the third stage, the funding will not come from KACST, but will come from the Ministry of Industry to develop the product. And it's one package, all agreed on from the beginning. The idea here is to help establish small and medium companies resulting from research in the universities. So the aspiration for KACST is to have a high efficiency institution with real tangible effect on the kingdom transformation to a knowledge economy, and to be an engine for creation and development of advanced industries, to have a sustainable ecosystem for science, technology, and innovation that depends largely on its own resources. So I come to the example in space, and the example I'm going to give is a miniaturized, autonomous, distributed space system for future science and exploration. This system, KACST and Stanford, through our joint Center of Aeronautics and Astronautics, with NASA and DLR as major partners, we are developing this system, which we call just MDSS. This system will reduce the cost of space exploration by an order of magnitude, from hundreds of millions of dollars to tens of millions for a mission. So we seek the development and flight demonstration of a reconfigurable, precise, distributed space system for future planetary science, space science, and exploration. So this looks at all these elements. This system can service all of these three sectors. The enabling technologies, formation, design, all kinds of missions, navigation, all different types of navigation, different types of control. We rely very much on drag-free technology, also timekeeping and communication. So we have to develop all of these technologies, and we have started already and launched the first satellite last year. So this is the technology or the roadmap for this system. We already started flying the first mission preparation for MGRS. We launched it last year with a payload that was developed jointly between Stanford, KACST, and NASA. And it was tested successfully, and now we're building on that for the next flight. So we will have MGRS to be flown in 2019, M-STAR, and the M is mini. So there is a star, the space-time asymmetry research. This project was hundreds of millions proposed before. Now we want to do it in the tens of millions. And also M-GRACE, maybe some of you know GRACE mission, which is also hundreds of millions of dollars, was launched several years ago. We want to do M-GRACE with an order of magnitude in the accuracy, with much less cost. And also M-DIOS, and ultimately M-LISA, mini LISA. LISA project is proposed almost $1 billion, and it still has not been approved, and I don't think it's likely to go forward soon. So our project ultimately will hopefully reach the same and do the same mission using this system. So this is I think the innovation that is required in the space field to reduce the cost. As was mentioned earlier, you need to reduce the cost also, but it's a new system that can accomplish the mission with much less cost, we hope. So these missions, we have already budgeted for the first 2 missions, and we have agreed to start forward with Stanford, and we're discussing with NASA. We have agreed with NASA and DLR on the M-STAR participation, but we need to finalize that arrangement with them. So the platform is Saudi Sat bus. It's about 100 kilogram with 100 watt roughly power. And again, this was launched in 2014, the first, and was successful. And in every mission, if I go back to the first one, I have to go back. On the, we have the science missions below the line. which is Earth gravity field, static Earth gravity field. You have inertial reference, dynamic Earth gravity field. Again, Earth gravity, gradiometry, and gravitational waves measurement. On the top line, these are the technologies that we develop. So every mission has a technology mission as well as a science mission. And here, these two missions that we have agreed on and we have budgeted and we're working on is the MGRS, Modular Gravitational Reference Sensor, by the way. That's the abbreviation. We have a drag-free control with an acceleration of 1 picometer per second square. And the Earth gravity recovery with resolution of microgal, as well as for the M-star, we're looking at autonomous angle-only rendezvous. And also the science mission is the Kennedy-Thorndike coefficient resolution by 2 orders of magnitude. So this is just the final slide to show this is what we have flown last year, and it's the heart of this drag-free. It's a sphere suspended in space, and you control the satellite to follow the sphere, and that has to be done precisely. It's so precise that this concept was used for testing general relativity, and Stanford, Lockheed worked on it for 50 years and was flown 2014. And the results were published just about 3 years ago or so, where they were able to measure the effects of general relativity on a gyro. So this concept that is derived from that experiment is the heart of this system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Highness Dr. Turki. I find it very impressive, the effort you are doing in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in order to bring your scientific community up to speed. That is quite remarkable, the speed with which you do it. And I hope that you will have success with your space project. It will be, of course, Mr. Samantha Roy, it will be a bit of disruptive nature if that is really successful, what you announced. I found particularly interesting that you try to orient your scientific community from the very outset to the application. We in Europe, at least in Germany, we didn't do that for many years. We had our science community and the application community rather separated. You tried to bring them together from the very outset, which is a good point. So our next speaker is Mrs. Candace Johnson. Yesterday, I asked her, what is your CV and what is your responsibility? And she told me that there are so many responsibilities that she is unable more or less to tell me which responsibilities she has. I just picked 2 or maybe 3. The first one is that she is a co-founder of SES Astra, this world-famous satellite company in Luxembourg. And the second one, he is the president of the European Business Angel Network. And then there was a long list of other things, and at the end she says, I'm also a singer. And this I noted with pleasure. So, Mrs. Johnson, I invite you to give us your speech and tell us about your experience with innovations and technology transfer. Thank you very much.
Well, it's absolutely great to be here, and I have to say, actually, His Highness Prince Dr. Turki was talking about technology transfer. When I was asked to give the speech today, I said, I can talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, but I cannot talk about technology transfer. I do not have a PhD in aeronautical engineering from Stanford. I have not already been the father of the satellite industry in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and I'm just so happy and so pleased, Your Highness, that you could come today and share your amazing work. I mean, you know, they already have 12 satellites in Saudi Arabia. They're just doing amazing, amazing things, and it's a great honor for me to be associated with you personally and with KACST and then the kingdom, and I put it in that order. So now, you know, yes, I told Mr. Feustel that I was a singer, but I decided today that you are all going to sing. So please stand up. Wonderful. Well, you did pretty well. So that's good. That's great. So, you know, I thought, you know, when I was asked to talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, I had to tell you something. When, you know, people used to say, what do I do? And I was not like I was telling Mr. Feustel last night. He didn't actually say what my responsibilities were. He said what my main responsibility was. But, you know, if you are a mother and you have given birth to babies and children, you love all of them. So you cannot say, oh, well, I did this one or I like this one. No, no, and you have to keep on with them no matter what, because it is your responsibility. But, you know, 35 years ago, people used to ask me, what do you do? And I said, I'm a telecommunications entrepreneur. And they said, what's that? And then about 20 years ago, when, you know, there was the boom and everything was cool, then they said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a telecommunications entrepreneur. They said, wow. Then about 10 years ago, I asked people asked me, what do I do? And I said, I'm a telecommunications entrepreneur. They go, oh. But you know what? I've always been an entrepreneur. Now I have to figure out, like Dr. Turki did, how I'm going to do this. Let me see. Brilliant. Okay. So we do have the whole world in our hands. And, you know, and we can do everything. So that is why I had all of us sing that song. And also with the universe, we now know, having had these amazing discussions today, that we do have the whole universe, that nothing is impossible. And in fact, I have a very dear friend who says, only the impossible things are worth doing in lives. And I really do believe that. And you know, we were talking about innovation, and this, particularly at the CTO discussion this morning, which I found very interesting. But I wanted to raise my hand, Dr. Samantha Roy, but I only raised it at the end. But really, because people are saying, well, you know, what is innovation and all of this stuff? For me, innovation is basically about seeing a problem, looking at the problem, and saying, how can I solve this? And how can I make the world better? So it's about being solution-oriented. And my feeling is that if you have a problem, and believe me, the world has a lot of problems, and if you feel that you have a solution, then you have the responsibility to go and to make that solution happen. And it can be blue sky, you know, whatever, but you have that responsibility to make the world better and to provide a solution. And so for me, entrepreneurship, because now everybody in the world, it's so funny. I tell my friends, I say, 35 years ago, and, when I was creating SES Astra, nobody wanted to even talk about entrepreneurship. They hated entrepreneurs. They were people who were destructive. They were crazy. So, I think that entrepreneurship, which everybody's talking about now today, is really about having a vision, believing, having the freedom. We are fortunate in so many of our countries that we do have the freedom to realize our visions and also responsibility. So that, to me, is what entrepreneurship is. And I am an entrepreneur. I know it. I mean, I didn't realize it, but everybody told me that I was an entrepreneur, so I started telling everybody that I was. But I am. So, okay. And innovation is providing solutions to problems, bringing about a revolution. I call bringing about a revolution or making change happen happy days. Innovation is about happy days. It's knowing that you have made something happen that is going to make the world better. It's creating a new status quo. It's making an impact. It's serving the cause. And, all of us have to have this desire to make things better, to go out, to conquer space, and to make not only our lives, but our children's lives and the next generation better. Now, my family, I am the luckiest person in the whole world. I once was told, Candace, you see everything through rose-colored glasses. Well, you know what? I would be tremendously ungrateful if that was not the case, because I had the most wonderful family, and I still do today. My dad was so poor that during the Depression, when the school people came to collect clothes for the poor children in the class, he went home and he told his mother he did not have anything to give to the poor children. And of course, it turned out that he was one of the poor children. And yet, he came to be an American general. He worked at the White House on the Apollo mission, so that when, I was 8 and 10 years old, my dad would come home from the White House and tell us what Wernher von Braun was saying, and, President Kennedy, and all of these wonderful people. He was a venture capitalist. He started 5 companies. He went and he created the Israeli venture capital success story. My mother was Romanian, and a Romanian immigrant, and she was love personified. So many times we forget about, particularly for entrepreneurs, they need to be loved. When you're out there and you're doing things that nobody wants you to do, then you would come home and your mom says, no matter what, honey, I love you. This is very important. And, my brothers and sisters, here I am. Do I have degrees in economics or in computer science? No. I have 5 degrees in music, right? Okay, so I need my brothers and sisters to help me when it comes to economics and things like that. And my dearest darling husband, who is a musician, but also happens to be an ambassador and just an amazing person. So, yes, I started when I was 5 years old, doing lemonade stands, going to science fairs, all of the things that people say you should do, I did. Building my own transistor radio, going to my friend who was 60, I was 8, and telephoning all around the world in 1960 behind the Iron Curtain. I mean, if ever you could get a bug for communications, that was it. And then, of course, whenever we wanted to do anything, we wanted to become the class president, whatever, my father would make us do a marketing campaign. So already, at age 12, I was doing marketing plans, how to become the class president. And chamber music. Mr. Werner was talking about jam sessions. Chamber music is like a jam session because you have to all play together. Somebody has to take the lead another time. Somebody has to take the lead the next time, etc. And of course, throughout my entire life, I have always been with satellites. Now, you see, so when in 1957, okay, we all remember what 1957 was. It was the year of the Sputnik, and I was 5 years old. Now, this Sputnik is on my Christmas tree ever since I was 5 years old. And Santa Claus is inside. Now, this is not a real Sputnik. This is just a flying saucer. This is what people thought. We lived in France at the time. My dad was doing the forward scatter for NATO when I was 5 in 1957. And then Sputnik came, and we were all so excited. And I thought, only good things happen from satellites because Santa Claus is in that satellite. And then when I was 10, and my dad, people talk about, what's his name? Walter Clark? Yeah. You know what? Walter Clark started doing all of these things when he was, I think in 1962. When in 1960, my dad was telling all of us, 2 boys and 2 girls at home, that we would have satellites to have communication, to have education, to have entertainment, and that when we did have wars, we would have wars with satellite, and we'd have peace on Earth. I grew up thinking all of this existed, and I was so amazed to find out that it didn't exist. But don't forget, I have 5 degrees in music. And I've always learned that satellites helped you do whatever you wanted to do, that you could create new zones, that you could create new communication. And so at the age of 23, after I had finished all of my degrees, and by the way, I did go to Stanford, but I went to Stanford in early performance music and computer music, which, was that was pretty cool too. But anyway, okay, so I decided that, classical music was going to save the world. And so I was in Washington, D.C., and I went to a building, and it was the building that belonged to Mobil Oil. Now, if any of you are here, and you are young or old, but you're an entrepreneur, and you want to do something, do what I did. That building, which I decided was the best building for classical music concerts to be given free in that building, belonged to Mobil Oil. So I went to New York. I told the Mobil Oil people, I said, I would like to use this building. They looked at me. It was 1976. I had hair down to my waist. I was in Washington, D.C. I was going to use their wonderful building for classical concerts, free classical concerts, in the ghetto of Washington, D.C. And they said, oh, we want to impress the Congress with the fact that we are doing something good, because this was during the oil crisis. We will put your classical music concerts all across the United States. We will fund it. I said, fine. I want to put my classical music concerts on satellite all across the United States. 1976, before Ted Turner started the channel, the Turner Super Channel. Now, why is that important? That is important because when I married my dear darling husband, 1981, his country, Luxembourg, had a problem. Remember I said about, finding problems and providing solutions? His country had a financial, they had a union with the Belgian franc problem. They had a broadcasting problem because the Belgians and the French were trying to take them over, RTL, and they had a steel crisis because up until 1945, steel, Mother Arbed, which today is ArcelorMittal, paid for everything in Luxembourg. So they didn't have anything. So when I married my husband, and I was hearing all of these problems, and the Prime Minister, Mr. Werner, one of the fathers of the Euro, had invited me to come and, I had to be approved. They didn't tell me I was going to have to be approved bearing an ambassador, but I did. So anyway, I came to Luxembourg, and he took me all around. He was trying to approve me at that point and said, okay, here are all these chateaus. I said, well, chateaus, cool, So anyway, I said, look, this country has been so nice to me. I'm going to help them. I'm going to do a satellite system for them. I was 30 years old. The Prime Minister was 70 years old. But you know what? And everybody thought it was impossible. But I didn't know it was impossible. I didn't know that doing a private transporter satellite system in Europe, in Luxembourg, in 1980, by now we're 1983, was impossible. And so, I didn't even know that in doing the footprint for that satellite system, which this is our first footprint, this is done in 1983, that I wasn't supposed to be doing the whole of Europe. It was Europe to me. No, I was only supposed to be doing half of Europe. But, you know what? I didn't know, and satellite systems are blind, and so we did it. And when we finally launched, oh, and by the way, forget getting any money, to do any of this stuff. We totally bootstrapped it, and I'll come to that in a little while. But when we finally did launch our satellite, our first satellite, on December 13th, 1988, in Kourou. And here again, I always have to thank Mr. Frédéric Dallest, who was the president of Arianespace and the president of CNES at that time. Because 5 years beforehand, in 1983, when nobody believed me, when people laughed, when Dr. Schwartz from MBB said, "Oh, Miss Johnson, you must be ridiculous. We do not sell satellites to young women with hair down to here from Luxembourg. We only sell satellites to serious companies like the Deutsche Telekom and the German government." There was a gentleman there when Dr. Schwartz was saying that who afterwards tried to deliver satellites to SES Astra. Let me tell you, he had a bad half hour, but we had fun afterwards, and we did give them a contract. So anyway, but Mr. Dallest, he said, "Okay, Ms. Johnson, you bring me a satellite, and I will launch it." He was the only one in Europe, besides 2 other people, who really believed. And that's why I say, being an entrepreneur, you have to believe. That is the most important thing. And if you have somebody who believes in you, you're not going to let them down. So all I knew is I have to bring that satellite to Mr. Dallest, and he's going to launch it for me. And you know what? He did. So this is, now, I have to show you my husband. My husband he's the cute one. So I'm in the middle, and then there's a guy, and then my husband is there. He's very cute. So with the white pants and everything. Okay, so that's my very dear darling husband, who's been married for 34 years. Behind him is our Grand Duke of Luxembourg. And behind the Grand Duke is the Prime Minister of Luxembourg. Now, this was taken on the morning. You can see I'm smiling, but not really smiling. And that is because the night before, we had not launched the satellite in the window. So we were going to launch it that night. And they took us to Devil's Island, where we were supposed to try and have fun. But of course, it was impossible to have fun. Now, why was it impossible to have fun? Because the satellite had not been launched the night before. It was our first satellite. We couldn't get any insurance. At this whole conference, nobody has talked about insurance yet. Insurance is the bane of the satellite industry. And talk about risk. So because we could not get any insurance, we had to launch the satellite without insurance. And the government had said, okay, we had gotten the money together, I'll show you that in just a moment, but only if this fails, that is it. So here I am thinking that night when we did not launch the satellite, I have told this country of 400,000 people that they can have a satellite, that they can do what everybody else has said is impossible. But you know what? They did it. It was so much fun. So I'm going to fast forward if I can. This is another thing. Just real quickly, because you know what? Nobody would, we talked about venture capitalists. Nobody would invest in us. Nobody would give us any money. You see the gentleman on your left? It was a French count. In America, nobility are usually impoverished. So I thought he was impoverished. And I asked him to come and help us because he had been the ambassador of the European Commission to the United States. So he knew all of the European countries. And I said, could you come and kind of be our senior statesman and help us with the governments? So Goldman Sachs, who we had retained, who never did a damn thing, comes to me and says, Candace, thank you so much. As a result of you, we have gotten our first $1 million. I said, well, who's the $1 million from? They said, well, Count de Kergolay. It was an angel investor. And that's why at the end of this speech, I'm so excited that we're going to be putting angel investors and space together. So one angel can make a difference. One private investor, when all of the odds are stacked up behind you, can make a difference. I'll just go back real quickly. We had some amazing stories with SES. It has been the best ride. So you know why? That is why I am very proud to say that I am the founder of SES Astra and the founder of SES Global. I'm also very happy to say that I helped do the first Occidental launch of a satellite on a Russian launcher, and there was Mr. Lebedev and Mr. Kiselev from Krunichev, and there we were, freezing our little buns off at 5:03 in the morning in Baikonur, drinking vodka. I'd never drunk vodka before, but we were drinking it, and we were launching this beautiful satellite. And at the end, when we launched it, and the first stage fell down over Russia, and the second stage over Siberia, and the third stage over China, and then it was free. And it really was international peace, like my dad had always said it would be. But you have to go, whenever you reach one horizon, you have to go to the next horizon. And so in 1997, when we had done our IPO, and we had not sold all of the shares, and by the way, because my husband was an ambassador, I was not allowed, and that was absolutely fine with me, to take any money from SES. The Prime Minister had said, Candace, I need you to do this, but you will never be able to have any financial reward. You know what? When you're 30 years old, who cares? You're going to change the world. And still today at 62, I would do exactly the same thing. But in 1997, we had done our IPO. Everybody was very happy. They were laying back a little bit. They were sitting on their derrieres. And I said, nope, we have to go forward. We could be the object of a hostile takeover. We must go to the next horizon. And so I said, we must become global. And, and I put, it's always buy or build. So I did all the orbital slots. I did the ground stations. And I said, okay, we could either build it, it's going to cost us this amount of money and take this amount of time, or we could buy something. And I looked at all of the other systems, and I decided we should buy GE Americom. Now, this is Luxembourg. And we are saying we're going to buy GE Americom. But we did, and we became the the world's largest satellite system. Now, there are some really interesting innovations behind SES, behind Astra. For those of you who are not from Europe or who do not know SES, it really was, this totally private, innovative, entrepreneurial project which became the world's largest satellite system. We did not sell satellites. We did not sell satellite dishes. We sold freedom of choice. And freedom of choice, because in 1983, you could not get private radio and television. You could not even, it was against the law to have a private satellite dish. There was no even regulation to have private satellites. Second, very important innovation, where we got everybody. And that was that the gallium arsenide LNBs were coming out, and they were 10 times stronger than what had previously happened. And so we could use a satellite with transponder power of 25 watts instead of what was being sold as the new big thing for 250 watts, DBS satellites. And as a result of that, we were literally 10 times cheaper. We covered all of Europe, not just part of Europe. We had 16 transponders, and we didn't tell everybody at that point we were then going to go to 32 and 48 and 64. So we had a factor of 10 to 1. Now, my dad always said, if you have a factor of 10 to 1, you're pretty good. If you have anything less, you better watch out. So, and we always fought to keep it independent. So these are some of the innovations that I think were really important behind SES. I'm going to go quickly now because, I love satellites. So all of my life, my professional life, I've been in satellites. So I started SES for satellite television. I then started in 1989 Teleport Europe, which was Europe's first private transporter satellite telecommunications company. Why did I start it in 1989? Who remembers what happened in 1989? Thank you. And so this was in Hanover. And Hanover is in the middle of it was at the end of Germany, but it was now in the middle of Germany and in the middle of Europe. And I told Gerhard Schröder, who was the chancellor at the time, I said, you need to have a teleport here. And he said, okay. And it was for businesses. I said, we need to have businesses being able to do telecommunications across Europe. And he said, what do you need? I said, I need land, I need a license, and I need a loan. And so the next day, the Minister of Finance came from the Lower Saxon government, and he said, okay, the governor says I should give this to you. I said, fine, which of course then meant again that I could not take any money. But I did finally get some money a little bit later on. But the I think about Teleport Europe, because we're talking about innovation, we're talking about, kind of cross-fertilization and all of this. Teleport Europe so I was doing satellite telecommunication networks for big companies like Daimler, like Renault, for the hospitals, for Hoyer, world's largest gas deep gas transporter. I got into the IP network. I got into the Internet Protocol. And the Internet Protocol was so rich, I said, wow, we could bring all of Europe online. And that is when I then had the idea for Europe Online, and created in 1993, November 1993, the world's first internet-based online service. AOL and Prodigy were X.25 networks, but Europe Online was the first internet-based online service. And here again, in fact, it was the world's first broadband service, because of course I brought it via satellite. And so we had surfing and downloading and streaming, all of this by the time in 1997. So very, very far ahead of his time. By the way, one of those projects, I would start it, people would come, they'd say, wow, they took over the control, they kicked me out. They would go bankrupt. I bought the company again, build it up, new people come, they take control, including Disney, kick me out. The third time I came, I bought it, and I just kept it for myself. I didn't let anybody else come. Okay, good. Okay, so also satellite mobile. I do love satellite. So Iridium was great. So I was the vice president of Iridium. But innovation is, you have to always be listening to the market. So yes, it was a great idea, and it was one of the most beautiful, and still is one of the most beautiful satellite systems. And by the way, quite frankly, OneWeb is doing exactly what Iridium did, but a little bit different with the tilting of the satellites, etc. But they had a problem. They did not listen to the market. And if you do not listen to the market, your technology can be as good as you want. I went to Nokia at the time, to Yurma Olila. I said, Yurma, I want you to build GSM handsets for Iridium. He said, Candace, you don't work for monopolies. I said, I said, it won't be a monopoly if you don't let it be a monopoly. So he said, okay, we'll come and we'll build handsets. And the idea was that we would have an Iridium open-air interface, so kind of like a booster that would go onto every mobile handset, and also be the common interface for the 18 digital systems and networks and standards that were happening around the world at that time. Motorola would not give the IPRs. They did not give the intellectual property rights to Nokia. The company went belly up. I did go back and help them get it started with Boeing and the Mowarid Group. Innovation can come from very strange places. So in 2002, I decided that telecommunications, which I love, was in the doldrums. And this was after the bubble had burst and all of this stuff. And so I thought, how can we bring everybody to really, get our aspirations and higher again? So I decided we should do the Festival of the Fourth Dimension in 2002, and I finally realized it in 2006. And we did some beautiful things. Probably, I think the most beautiful thing that we did was actually called the Symphony of Machines, where in 2006 we had IBM, France Telecom, Hewlett-Packard, SAP, all in Sophia Antipolis, all opening up their networks. Okay, this is before cloud, opening up their networks, using Ubuntu, and we were then putting neuron network into it so that the impulses and the music that was created was being generated in a cloud system with a neuron network, and we had lasers and loudspeakers connected to all of these places for 3 days and 3 nights in Sophia Antipolis, as you can kind of see here. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever done. And indeed, when people talk to me about cloud and everything, I just go, hey, I've done all of this stuff. So anyway, it's kind of fun. Okay, now let me see if I can ever get this thing going. Okay, so just real quickly, because I have 5 minutes, I'm big into women. I'm delighted to see that there's so many women here, and I'm available to you whenever. Raspberry Pi, this is the computer, a $25 computer. That's cool. Okay, so, here again, we're talking about investing. So, do you know what? I saw Raspberry Pi done by friends, Jack Long and Herman Hauser, and I said, I like this. I want to bring this to Saudi Arabia. And because, and can we please have this in Arabic? And they said, well, we don't have the time to do it. I said, fine, I'll get somebody. I paid $2,500, okay? $2,500 to get the whole thing put into Arabic. Prince Dr. Turki, we're still working on getting it into Saudi Arabia, okay? But in the meantime, I went to Lebanon, and on the right-hand side is the telecoms minister showing to the education minister of Lebanon the Raspberry Pi, because we also did a program called Youth to Youth. And they then decided that they would put the Raspberry Pis so that kids can learn how to code and program at the age of 6 into all of the Lebanese schools. And because the Syrian refugee kids are also schooled in Lebanon, they are now learning how to code and to program with Raspberry Pi. This is with an investment of $2,500. So don't tell me that individual angel investors cannot make a huge impact. And if you are a woman, you've got to do something for your other sisters. We started the European Business School Women on Boards, and we become the global board-ready women. I promised the lady from San Diego I would talk about one of the most beautiful projects that I'm doing right now. So 3 years ago, friends of mine in New Zealand, they were not friends then, but young ladies came up to me after I had given a speech, and they said, wow, internets and satellite, that's so cool. We don't have any good connection in New Zealand. We're going to go to Australia and get some satellite connectivity from them. I said, that's totally ridiculous. Just start your own satellite system. And so we started Skyping every single Saturday morning, me at 8 a.m. here, they at 8 p.m. We created OWNSAT, Oceania Women's Network Satellite, with all of the women from all of these islands. We are now the largest shareholder in the Pacific satellite system, which is using high-throughput Ka band to bring internet connectivity to all of those islands. And of course, all of the women will also be doing the various business and services that are marked here, education, health, etc. So it's an innovative business model. I have to tell you, the ITU, the World Bank, they all love us. So, women are cool and hot and everything. So, okay, good. And we've also got the climate change that we're using with satellites. So I'm just going to go real quickly here, if I can. That's another thing. Also, this is the second company that I'm now invested in. I wasn't beforehand, but now I am, which is the world's first laser and satellite system, combining the power of laser and the power of satellite. It's going to be cool. And the neat thing is, because it's a MEO, so it's above so it's connecting, it's a business-to-business backbone internet network, kind of leveraging not only the power of laser and power of satellite, but also for the fiber optic. It needs clear skies, which is another thing I've been talking to Prince Dr. Turki about. We'll see what happens there. But the cool thing is that since it's blanketing the whole world with, and it's above, it can also provide the internet connectivity to these loons and drones and everything. So, so we really get some cool things happening here. Just a couple of trends in satellites. So definitely the democratization of space through the whole industry, satellites, launches, manned space. By the way, I do not invest in manned space. I don't have the heart for it, but okay. People talk about Planet Labs. Actually, I saw the same thing with Landsat just about 15 years ago or 20 years ago. The difference there is that Landsat was trying to sell its services to the IRS in the United States to see how many people had pools so that they could then pay more taxes. And Planet Labs definitely has a better idea. Okay, SpaceX, CubeSats, nanosats. Satellite constellations, as I say, O3b and OneWeb, quite frankly, they are like Iridium and Globalstar. They're satellite constellations. Big thing is Keynote. So Keymeta is this new type of antenna, very thin. You can put it on. You can put it on people. You can put it on airplanes to receive satellite and send satellite terminals. So I think that this connections. I think that this is going to be a disruptive technology, which is going to change again the satellites. One more time, just a second. Hold on. Space debris. Is going to be a big thing. A European company, D-Orbit, I think is going to do some wonderful things there. Seamless GPS precise positioning, also good. I'll just show you a couple of pictures here. So this is the plant. It's not the Planet Labs. Planet Labs, that's cute, but it's Planet Labs. Okay, good. Okay. The CubeSats. CubeSats are really, really cool. Hey guys, we've got to have CubeSats here in Europe and in Spain and in Japan and in the Middle East. Okay. Hey, this is easy, and we've got to put them up on our launchers. So let's do that. There's going to be a lot of debris in space, so, that is a problem, but this company, D-Orbit, nice little company out of Italy, has a solution that is really, really great and fun. We've been talking about, positioning and precise positioning with Galileo, etc. I'm excited about this company, which is called Decawave. Here again, it is a European company based out of Ireland, and it is doing the seamless GPS outside indoor positioning within 10 centimeters. Really, really good. And I think that they are going to be disruptive. And I'm trying to put together an angel round to invest in them, about $5 million or euros. Leadership, you've got to be a leader. You know what I always say? Ted Turner used to say it too, and I guess Roosevelt said it. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Very important. These are my ABCs. They were written by Dear Abby, an agony aunt. They are on my in front of my desk the whole time. I'll just do a couple. A, avoid negative sources, people, things, and habits. D, don't give up and don't give in. This is for young and old entrepreneurs. J, just do it. K, keep on trying. No matter how hard it seems, it will get better. Sometimes when I have to write things, I go, God, I can't do this. I say, oh, you got to write. Okay, then it just gets a little bit better. M, make it happen. N, never lie, cheat, or steal. Always strike a fair deal. V, visualize it. If you can see it, you can do it. Z, zero in on your target and go for it. Q, I do love Q. Quitters never win and winners never quit. Okay, you got to get that right. All right. Okay, think big. You know what? I don't like little things. It's just as hard to do big things as it is little things. So go for the big thing, okay? And that's what entrepreneurs should do. Governments, what should governments do? Well, you know what? Dr. Schwarz-Schilling from Germany always used to call me when he was the Minister of Telecoms, and I was just me. And he said, one day I said to him, why are you calling me all of the time? And he said, governments can set policy. Governments can deregulate, but governments cannot do, and I need you to do. And from that day on, it was about 1988. I realized, I have a responsibility as an entrepreneur. I have to do, because the government cannot get what it wants without me doing. Very important. The Israeli example, when my dad went to Israel at the invitation of Chaim Herzog, Chaim Herzog said, please come and look at our country and see what we can do. It was in 1990. What was that? Why is that so important? Because not only had the wall fallen down, but all of the Russian scientists of the Jewish faith were allowed to leave Russia, and they went to Israel. And then my dad went to the kibbutzes. And in the kibbutzes, they had the American work ethic. And he said, okay, we can do something here. Private partnership. I believe very much in the public and the private partnership, and that the government should put the framework in and then let it happen. And with private sectors, we can become a nation of investors. If we do not invest in the next generation, we will have a lost generation. And corporate venturing, I'm so happy to see some of the corporations here, because they are the missing link to getting our startups to become scale-ups. And I think that also as a private citizen, you can make the framework happen. So I've written and sent to President Juncker of the European Commission what we call the E-zone paper. Now, why, and everybody says, oh, Candace, this E-zone paper, it says that we can have companies be started in a day. It says that investors can, not pay the incredible taxes. It says that there's cross-border entrepreneurship and cross-border investment. And everybody says this is not possible. And I say, you know what? I work in satellites. And in satellites, you create a zone. You create a coverage zone. And so I believe that we can do the E-zone. And just recently, I was in Estonia. Estonia is amazing, and they have started the e-residency program. And we are now working with Estonia to create the E-zone. And, we're going to do it, and I want to do it by the end of this coming year. So, let's write 10 new success stories for a better world for the 21st century. And I'm very, very pleased to say at the end of this discussion that EVAN, so the European Trade Association for Business Angels, seed funds, and early stage market players, and ASA have entered into, I think, what is going to make an agreement and a partnership to join forces to make entrepreneurship and investment in space a new asset class for Europe. I believe that space is Europe's destiny and that we're going to do great things together, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so very much.